Well, hey guys, we're back out at Shiloh National Military Park today, and I think I'm going to try to teach you a little history of the church that gave the battle its name. And before we can do that, we're going to have to move from Shiloh Cemetery out to another part of the battlefield. As we do that, I need you to understand that the name Shiloh means place of peace. The first church in the area sat in the general vicinity of the present-day Michigan State Monument. This intersection is about a mile southwest of Pittsburgh Landing, and it was here in 1835 that a church named Union Church was built. The congregation of Union Church split sometime around 1945 over the issue of slavery. Around 1851, a guy named J.J. Ellis gave about 4 acres of land to a local school district, and that's where they built a new church. Shiloh Church was built in the 1850s on a tall ridge north of Shiloh Branch. At the time of the battle, the Shiloh Church was a small log structure about 25 feet by 30 feet. We're going to show you around a replica of the original church while we tell you some of its story. The church was used as a hospital and shelter during the battle, and it was also used as the headquarters of Confederate General PGT Borgard. Most historians, or let me say most of the historians whose work I have read anyway, place Union General Prentiss at Shiloh Church the night of April the 6th, 1862, of course, after his surrender in the Hornet's Nest. There seem to be a couple different stories about the destruction of this original church building, but most seem to indicate it survived the battle. One of the stories about the church's destruction say that it collapsed because of damage that it received during the battle. Another says that soldiers took it apart to use it for building of bridges and campfires and things like that. In my mind, either story could be true. The terrible fighting that took place in this sector of the battlefield could have very easily have destroyed this little church, or let me say, damaged this little church building. Of course, Christ Church is not the physical church building. The battle would have never destroyed that, but certainly the building could have encountered damage during the horrific fighting that happened around it. On the spot of the original church, members later built a brush arbor so they would have a place to worship until enough money could be raised to rebuild. Church members finally raised enough money to build a simple, large board building in 1881. This building was in use during the 1890s when the park was established. The congregation tore the second church building down sometime around 1929. They began building this present structure in 1929, but lack of money during the Great Depression forced the church members to stop construction. The congregation began work again in 1949 on their new building, and by 1952 they had finished an incomplete shell. And that, of course, is why you can notice the native stonework on the outside of the building, down around the bottoms of the exterior walls, and of course the brickwork up top. The brickwork coming in that 1949 to 52 time period. It is my understanding that the church is still an active congregation, so I'm guessing it still holds the only private land inside the park itself. So that means the church can do what it wants to with its land, even though it is inside the boundaries of the National Military Park. The church even ran a school back here behind it for years, but in 2001, they allowed the park to build the replica of the original Shiloh church that we walked through. Throughout the years, there, of course, were other churches on the battlefield. The original Union Church is extinct. In fact, no traces can be found of it. It seems it was gone by the time of the battle. The northern branch of the Methodist Episcopal Church built a building north of this present-day structure. Shiloh Church is, of course, in the southern branch of the Methodist Episcopal Church. Shake Rag Church stood near the Confederate artillery positions just south of Locust Grove Branch, and another church stood close to its headwaters. And like many other southern communities, this one was certainly no different. It had no shortage in churches. Well, if you think you've enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you bump that like button. And I sure do hope you've learned a little something about the church that gave a battle its name. Thank you.